Welcome back to Crafting a Meaningful Life. Do you want a meaningful life or just a life that was thrown to you because you just weren't strong enough or enough foresight in life or enough belief that you could actually craft your life? That you are the one that are making the difference. You are the one with your hand on the rudder, okay, directing which direction this ship is going to go. I absolutely love where I have directed my ship. Have I made mistakes? You know it, but I don't regret those. Those are the reason I am where I am today. And I'm still crafting this life. I'm still crafting the life that I want for myself and for all that are around me. And to that end today, I've invited one of my dear friends, Scott Schwab, to come onto the podcast with me to share a little bit about how he's crafting his meaningful life. Welcome, Scott. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much, Mary. Really appreciate you having me on.
Well, right off the bat, I would say 80% of my guests are women. So you're in this very elite group of men who are on my podcast. But obviously, when there's a man on, they know, my listeners know, this guy must be something special, or Murray wouldn't have him on.
That's nice of you. I appreciate that.
So let's start by telling my listeners a little bit about what's filling your life right now. I don't ask people anymore like, well, so what do you do for a living, or that. What's filling your life right now?
Yeah, I am a person who collects people. And so I love people. I love experiencing many different types of options with getting to know people. And so that happens in community, that happens within work. I love to do something called an entrepreneur spotlight. One of the spotlights I did was you.
Yes.
And for me, it's telling a story for other people to really attach to, and not only attach to, but learn from. And as they learn that they can take risks, they can take steps towards a meaningful life or a crafted life that gives people purpose and meaning. So that's what's filling my cup, is people. I love people.
Well, I remember the day we met. We were at the 40 Women Over 40, and I was obviously well over 40, but I was receiving this award. And my dear friend Krista Anderson was at my table with me. I'd invited her to be one of my guests at my table, and she came up and she said, I have a guy who wants to meet you. And I'm always like, really? And I said, sure. So we went over, and you were just full of life, full of energy. And I actually posted the photo from that day on LinkedIn this morning of how excited I was to have you on this podcast. And I wondered then, what would I offer that would be of value to Scott and his listeners? And it's the exact same thing that I want you to offer to mine. Your vision for how we achieve the things we want in our life for ourselves and for others. So let's tell my listeners a little bit what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, you bet. For me, I'm an entrepreneur and have a couple of different businesses. I'm really passionate about education, and then I'm also really passionate about agritech. And so how that kind of plays out in my day-to-day life is we have a products company, mostly e-commerce, but it is in retail, that we sell products that help people with circumstances like getting better sleep and helping a person with, daily anxiety and stress and skin health. And Krista is one of our, customers / patients that used our product. And it's so fun to hear these stories of people who are solving problems, like a man that was on Ambien for 7 years and couldn't find any type of solution that was outside of the synthetic. We really believe in the natural side of things. And because we believe in natural, it's the supply chain that helps a person to understand this is not only natural, but it's cared for in a way that I don't have to worry about pesticides, fungicides, herbicides. I can trust the product, I can trust the brand. And so that's really what we've tried to establish with Mett. And that takes probably the majority of my day time. on the offside, I love to be able to help with education. So I serve in the Utah Nonprofit Housing Corporation, where we design programs for the residents, help them with technology, help them with learning and growing. We work with Mentors International, another nonprofit that we really believe very heavily in, that education is that modality that will help people to move forward and to expand their lives. So those are from a work perspective where I spend a lot of my time day to day.
Well, I hope we have time to come back to the education piece, because I'd like to talk about that. But for just a minute, I want to talk about this other part. I have only known you as an entrepreneur, in this entrepreneur space, lifting entrepreneurs, giving entrepreneurs a vision of what's possible. This bombshell you just laid on me, that you have a product that Krista Anderson has used that helped her in her healing process from breast cancer. And this is all news to me. So I got to know more about this. Tell me about what you actually sell, a product?
Yeah. So Mett, ultimately, we founded it in 2019. Me and two of my friends from Idaho. We're a couple of farm boys that secretly want to be back in the farm life and, getting out.
Well, I'm
and
originally
from
Iowa, so
okay.
I can totally relate to that, okay? Born and raised, on the farm, girl. Yeah.
So we really were enamored by the Farm Bill. And what it did is it removed hemp from being a harmful substance or being a controlled substance. Of course, when we first looked at hemp, it was like, well, is this just a lighter version of marijuana? Is this something that, is so similar that, this is just an industry to legalize marijuana? And ultimately, at first, we were pretty hesitant. After I had kind of looked at some of my own challenges, I was trying to solve challenges around pain and specifically neuropathy. I was paralyzed when I was 15 years old, and so part of the nerve damage that happened at that time really now plays out in forms of neuropathy. And so I was trying to find solutions for pain, and I found out that hemp CBD was very effective at controlling pain, and not only pain, but peripheral neuropathy pain. Like Krista, one of the things that she told me after her treatment is in her cohort, she was the only patient that did not have peripheral neuropathy after treatment. And I was like, that's incredible. I'm like, we need to figure out why that was the case and how we are able to help heal and help other people to move forward within their healing or within kind of just their day-to-day walk.
That's incredible. So it's a hemp product. What's the modality? What's the method?
Yeah, so there's a couple different methods, and ultimately tinctures are probably most popular, the sublingual application. Hold it under your tongue. Krista would say that she would utilize that as swishing. She would swish it in her mouth because going through chemotherapy and radiation, a lot of patients will get sores in their mouth. And Krista was educating me on the fact that she would just take our peppermint product, swish it in her mouth, and it was like she never had that dry mouth. She didn't have that, like those sores that just were painful. Yeah. The other thing is she would use our recovery cream on her body for the aches and pains and for the rashes and kind of some of the skin irritations that she would get along the way. And so some of those modalities, whether it be topical or ingestible, were really helping her. And she had a great cardiologist that ultimately kind of prescribed a program for her. But she's such a giver. You know her. Yeah. She has talked to so many of our customers who are going through similar challenges. And really, she is just such a sweetheart and provides that, hey, here's the protocol that I used. And here's whom I would talk to. And so she refers them to the experts. But we were so enamored by this ability to heal the body when the body's going through pretty challenging times, even from the form of like digestion. And, going through chemotherapy will sometimes plug a person up where they're not able to have that digestion and their stomach hurts all the time. And so products like CBD really are very good regulators, and they regulate your stresses and anxiety, but they also do a great job with your pain and inflammation.
Okay, so I don't have cancer,
Yep.
but as an aging woman, I have a lot of those things. I don't have dry mouth because there's no possible way because I consume so much water. But I get 96 ounces. That's my goal every day. As an aging woman, one of the things that I do experience now is a change in my digestive tract that you're talking about. And I feel like it's taken a hiatus. It's like, you don't really need me anymore. And you're focused on all these other parts of your body. As you know, I do strength training and those kind of things. And so you focus over there, and I'm just going to go to sleep.
Yeah.
I don't want you to go to sleep. So I feel like that. I often suffer from bloating. And obviously, I know that is a huge byproduct of gluten. I know that inside of me, the refined white sugars. But if there's something, does this help with things like that? The bloating that people, everyone I talk to now is like, oh yeah, I have so much bloating. Yeah. You're not 71. Why do you have bloating?
Well, Mary, the interesting thing is that our foods are just different than when we grew up. There's a lot of talk and conversation about healthy gut microbiome.
Yep.
Inflammation really challenges our digestive tract. And so CBD being something that really helps with inflammation, we recommend the little gel capsules because their digestion really starts in the stomach lining. And so it decreases that inflammation and helps a person to be able to continue their digestive function, to be able to help with food, with bringing down inflammation, with digestive process. But a lot of times people don't realize that it goes to how you farm the product, and you really have got to have a good field or a soil microbiome, free of heavy metals, free of residues. And so every field that we ever test or grow in, we test the soil to the billionth particle. And sometimes people feel like that's a little excessive, but I want to be able to ensure to you or anybody else that you're not going to have these inflammatory issues when you take our product. You're not going to have heavy metals in your body. You're not going to have ethanol and butane and hexane. Those are some of the things that oftentimes get used in the form of extraction. So we've just built this supply chain that is completely protecting the plant and allowing the plant to do what it does. And so you've got a very pure product that allows people to fight inflammation, because everybody's going to have inflammation, and especially inflammation of the gut. And so we want to provide those solutions that allow people to have great digestion, great health, and to process nutrients at the gut level that are going to fuel your body, because some of us are just eating products that have no nutritional value, and we wonder why we're totally exhausted. We wonder why we don't have the strength and the energy. It's all a nutrient profile that starts at the gut microbiome.
Functional medicine doctor tell me once that the number one issue that we're dealing with in our health is inflammation. And that it's really the source of what's creating so many of the issues that we're experiencing in our bodies today. And I just pondered that, wondering, well, what is creating this inflammation? Is it our stress response to where we live and how we live today? Is it how we're consuming our food, what we're putting into our body, on our body? So in belief in what you're doing, and I've heard about this hemp before, I, of course, went to the grocery store and bought my hemp lotion. And as I'm putting it on and I'm looking at it and I'm reading the ingredients, I realized, okay, this was a person that has a small little percentage of hemp over here, and they just put it all over the label and said hemp lotion, you know.
Yep.
Not even any CBD in it or anything, and it's not helping me at all. I didn't mean to turn this into an infomercial, but seriously, I am totally curious about what you're doing. How long has the company been going?
Yeah, so we really started in 2018 once the Farm Bill passed and we kind of got that legal nod, because there is a lot of confusion. People think that CBD is THC. Sometimes they've tried CBD products and either they didn't work for them, or in some circumstances they tried a CBD gummy but had a high experience. And so we really try to be transparent to where every one of our products has a QR code on it. You can follow the COA or the certificate of authenticity, like the journey from the farm to the shelf, because we're really passionate about sharing something that a whole family could take, and that you don't have these reservations about what it's not going to do or what it's going to do. And we have a money-back guarantee on our products. It's because we trust the process of the farming. And that's really, like you had talked about the functional doctor, we've got to get back to better soils and rich nutrients that are in the soils, because so many aromatic plants pull from what the soil that they have available to it, just like hemp does. And the better soil, the better the product.
Yeah, I am totally on that page. Obviously, I was born in the 50s in Iowa when the soil was black. It was the color of my shirt. And I can remember, because after the war now, and things are all just hyping up to the nth degree in America, and the production of food. And so then now what was happening to the soil as they were trying to increase production and over farming. And just in my lifetime, I saw my soil in Iowa go from my color of shirt to your color of shirt. And, from this brown light from black. And now I think that there's this awareness of what over farming was doing. They're doing a lot more crop rotation. They're doing a lot more of those kinds of things. But still, the commercial use of our agricultural business, now get ready, this is my soap opera. My soapbox is stand on. But it's like any other industry. We threw out all the things that were about keeping us healthy for making money and to increase production. What we've done with our poultry population, our beef product, our pigs. I grew up in Iowa. Like I said, I remember what chickens looked like before we butchered them. And they're just running around. And they had nice breasts, but they weren't double D's, I can tell you that. And now you go to the grocery store and I look at a chicken breast in that plastic wrap there, and it's a meal for 4. One breast is a meal for 4. And the way chickens were meant to be was, my dad always loved the legs because the leg had the most meat on it. Now the leg is like a skinny little thing. All right, so I'm going to get off my soapbox here. So I am totally on your page if I understand about the quality of the soil and making sure that products are farmed right. And I love the idea of the QR code that you can follow the life of your hemp products. And I also love that my dear friend who I trust, who is like one of the most women of integrity I know, has found success with your product. And you, that I've developed a trust with, are producing this product. I can't wait to get off the podcast and go on. And what's your website?
So it's Mett Naturals, METT naturals.com. And that's where you'll find all of our CBD products. We've come out with a sister company, which is Mett Wellness. And those are going to be more like ashwagandha, magnesium, tallow, goat's milk soap, some of those necessary items for our nutrition and our kind of our regulation of our nervous system. That's really our core focus, because you said it earlier and I really liked what you said. Is it the food we eat? Is it the stress that we take? Is that our environment? the answer, in my opinion, is all of those things play a factor. And so we've got to do a better job at advocating for our own health. And like the CEOs that sometimes we play in the work life, we've got to be the CEO of our health, because nobody else is going to watch our health. And I applaud what you're doing with going to the gym and showing exercises. Like, muscle is so essential. It's the key to longevity. And so I would hope that everybody does something to help with their muscular growth, muscular management. Not that they need to be bulky or anything, but muscle is something that is going to help with osteoporosis and some of these challenges that we get as we age. So,
yeah. And that's what I want to do, Scott, is I want to inspire women that there's hope, and that 50 is not the time that you turn off life and just retire and think that your life holds nothing new and exciting. The woman I spent time with yesterday at the gym, I told you before we started, I met her, and she was obviously, her knees and her legs, her feet weren't functioning. She was in a wheelchair, but she was determined to get better. And she was old and frail, but as we talked and I knelt beside her, I asked her how old she was. And she said, well, I was born in 1963. She was 10 years younger than me. And I said to her, I was born in 1953. She didn't believe me. She thought I was lying to her. And I said, I don't say that to brag or to have you feel bad. I say that to inspire you, to give you hope that there is life beyond this. And I see it in you. And you, if you keep coming here to the gym, you can get out of that wheelchair. Because I watched her move on to the machines. It wasn't that she was crippled. And it wasn't that she had something that she had just not used those limbs. Sat at a desk for 40 years. Okay, Scott, we're going to heal this planet.
Yeah. I like
all
that.
All right. Enough of the info commercial. Okay, I'm sorry, listeners. Sorry. I just when I find things that I'm intrigued with and that I know are going to add personal value to me, they can't help but also add value to my listeners. So here's my promise to you, listeners. I'm going to get on. I'm going to get this product. I'm going to try it. And I'm going to report back. I'm going to say, like, okay, my inflammation's down. I have rheumatoid arthritis. And my listeners know that. And we're going to see what happens here. And I want to get my digestion flowing again, like I was a young buck, just... And many people have that problem when they start to slow down and they're not having the movement they need. But yeah. I'm doing my 10,000 steps a day. I have plenty of movement, but it's just, if I can reverse that, I'm all in. All right, Scott. So enough of the infomercial. Now to you. I want to know what you're doing with this entrepreneur thing. You reached out to me to be on your podcast because you saw me as an entrepreneur. And the different things that I've started in my life, and now at age 65 to reinvent and start a new company, Mary Crafts Inc. And what I'm doing now is completely different than what I did before. So how do you see the role of an entrepreneur? And what are the responsibilities? And how do you know if you're an entrepreneur, a stifled entrepreneur?
Yeah. Well, I love the question. So I believe that as an entrepreneur, if we go back to kind of the genesis of where the word came from, it comes from French, and it really translates to try. And so I believe that all of us as people can also have that veracity in life and business to try. Mm-hmm. You can be an intrapreneur, and I was an intrapreneur before I was an entrepreneur, where I tried to solve problems within inefficient systems or inefficient products. I think all those things are entrepreneurship type activities, But and that's why I believe that every single person can be an entrepreneur, and there's benefits there to being an entrepreneur within a ecosystem where you've got the support, you've also got others that can mentor you. But I believe that similar to how you are an entrepreneur, our job is to lift. It's to help other people and to provide resources that they may not have, because entrepreneurship is messy. And you've got to wear so many different hats, and you jump into this thinking like, I've got this idea that's going to change the world. But then what happens is you get so focused on all the other things, you start to kind of become that individual that may lose touch with why you jumped in, and keep looking to change the world. But the only way that you're going to be able to do that is align yourself with other people. I don't know one entrepreneur that did it all by themselves. I don't know anybody that did.
No way.
Yeah. And so if we're going to change this kind of the discussion around what entrepreneurship is, I think that we need to tell enough stories about who's doing it and what their why is and how they've done it. Because sometimes our why doesn't always connect us with the how. And so for the last 7.5 years, I've just been telling every Wednesday a story of somebody who I admire or who has a really interesting past or journey or whatever it might be, because I want people who are on the sidelines being like, I could be an entrepreneur, or I have an idea. Who do I align myself with? Where are these resources? And let's get you those resources to do your own thing, or do it with somebody else, so that you have those like thought processes that you can add value to what somebody else is doing. Again, you don't have to be the CEO of a company to add value. Let's, as entrepreneurs or intrapreneurs, add value and lift others where we stand.
I love that. So one of the things that intrigued me that you said, and I have to say I've never embraced that idea before, and that is, you believe we are all entrepreneurs, and we all have the ability to be entrepreneurs. I think that majority of people don't believe that. I mean, either they think, oh, you're either born with that or you learned it somewhere, but that not everyone has the mind to create. And when you said that, I thought, wait, I do believe that. Why have I haven't ever put it in the word of entrepreneurship? Okay, all my listeners, you hear that? Whether you thought you were an entrepreneur or not, you are. And you can be if that's what you want. Some people may not want to lead. I always, I'm sure you've had this before when people would say, I'm, for me, it was always, I think I want to start a catering company. And how do I do that? And should I do that? And could I do it? Well, yes, you could. But whether or not you want to is always the question. Do you want to be a great chef and create at that level? That's very different than the person who wants to create a business and run it at that level. The two can be the same. For me, they were, but oftentimes they're not. You have different types of skill sets within the entrepreneur mindset. How do people begin to identify, do you have to always be a leader to be an entrepreneur?
Great question. And I don't think you do have to be a leader. I think some of the best leaders are leading from a position that is not such a focal point that everybody knows that that person is going to be the leader. I think that they rally people. I think they support people. They uplift people and allow other people to shine. One of my early mistakes as an entrepreneur is, Mary, I would get everybody that was just like me into a room, and we would have this cheerleading session of like, oh, we're going to be so wealthy. This is going to be so great. Everybody is going to win, and this is just going to be so fun.
People are going to love me.
And then you realize that's not reality. But what I've done since, I grew up and matured a little bit is I found people not like me, and people who had skill sets and abilities that I don't have. And you've got to give those people the chance to shine, because if you consistently try to hey, I know best and I'm going to insert myself here and insert myself there. If you don't trust your people, you're really just creating an environment for people to fail. And so from my perspective, entrepreneurship not only means to try and to have an idea and to be able to exert yourself towards that idea, but it's also the responsibility of finding other people who can do the things that you can't do. Like, some people are introverts, but they're great entrepreneurs. Some people just don't have the social capacity they think they need to have to be an entrepreneur. And I'm like, you can be an entrepreneur. Just surround yourself with somebody that wants to be that person, or wants to be kind of like that visible, like, you know, person that's going to share the vision and the direction of the company.
I just think that is such good advice, to surround yourself with people who are not like you. You know, when I started my company, I had to wear all the hats, from the janitor to the salesperson, to the marketer, to the chef, to the driver. I mean, you just wore every single hat. But eventually, to be able to sit back and say, which hat do I wear best? What are my best skill sets? And I had to, at year 10, realize my best skill set is not chefing in the kitchen. I can hire that. My best skill set is marketing and sales, because nobody can sell like I can. I always said I could sell horse poop to put it on a plate and people would think it was wonderful because of the way I described it. But you begin to find those people who have that. And then to realize, you know what? I'm not the best organizer. I have vision, but I'm not the best organizer. And so to hire people underneath me then that were super organizers, could see a situation and say, like, okay, this is how we need to organize this, and then these are the results of that kind of structure. Oh, I didn't have that vision. You mean it's more than just showing up with food and hugging people? Okay, great. You have to be able to get it there and have it be safe and cold or hot. And okay, I got that. Okay, we're going to organize. But really, I am so on that page. And to find, how do people go about and find what they're best at?
You know, I think it's an introspection, but I also think that it starts with something that each of us should have, which is a mentor. All of us should have a mentor, because certain people can see other things that we cannot, whether it's cognitive dissonance and we can't really connect to what it is we truly do well, or if we don't have the confidence that we can do those things well consistently. I think a mentor is something that each of us should have, because it's somebody who can sit down, appreciate you for who you are, recognize that you're not perfect and nobody is, but that they can say, hey, listen, you'd be really good at this, or you'd be really good at that. And sometimes people find that in a significant other, a best friend, somebody who is in their community. Like, there's so many people that can be that for you, but I think it starts with introspection of, hey, who am I and what am I good at? Okay, I have these things that I think that I'm really good at, but then fact check yourself against somebody who really knows you very well. It could be a mom or a dad or a brother or a sister, whomever that is. I think each entrepreneur that exists needs some form of a mentor.
I love that idea that a mentor can help you whittle that down and find direction. And the idea that you first start with yourself. I'm kind of a list maker. I'm of the old-fashioned type that likes a notebook and a pen. not my iPhone, you know. But just to make a list of the things that you're good at. And then from there, the more important list to me is the things that you love to do, the things that light the passion inside. Like, I'm pretty good at math, but it doesn't light any passion inside of me. Zippo, none. I'm like, I see people who like get so excited, they love being accountants. I'm like, I might be. So what is it that you love? And as much as I love to cook, And I loved that chefing part. For me, what lit my fire were the people. And being with those people and talking to them about their once-in-a-lifetime dream event and then creating it for them. And going to, I love to work the events, to show up and just be there. And that's what lit my fire. I was so excited to be that part of it and no longer be just the creative piece in the kitchen. But some people, that being out there scares them to death. But they love to be in the kitchen and creating. And even running a kitchen team. They can run a team as an entrepreneur in the kitchen. But they don't want to, that doesn't light their fire. Should be out there on stage. Well, Scott, you and I are not afraid of that stage. We love to be on that stage.
Yep.
All right, Scott. So as we think about winding down our podcast today, we've talked about so many great things. First of all, I'm excited to get on Mett.
Yep, M-E-T-T.
Yeah, you're not Facebook. Yeah.
No. MettNaturals.com.
Mett Naturals. Okay, Scott, this is what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to send me an email today, as soon as we get off, that has the links to the places that, one, we can find your mettnaturals.com. If you have a website that talks about what you're doing, maybe your LinkedIn profile, wherever you would like people to find you. And then what I do is I'll put those at the end of this podcast so people can actually find and click on those and find you and reconnect with you at another time. So will you send me that so I can put that at the end of this?
Yep, I will.
I just think people are going to be as excited as I am to find out about the little Idaho farm boy who is growing hemp and now selling it.
Right.
I love that. All right. So if you could leave one message to the people who've listened to this podcast, whose minds are now sparked, of course we listen because we internalize. It's not about learning all about Scott, but what now is my vision for me? What was the message that you would leave?
I would tell people to give themselves more grace. I think that oftentimes so many of us beat ourselves up, or we're that internal voice that's critical and putting ourselves down. I don't think there's any place for that. And as we learn as entrepreneurs, the more negativity that exists, the positivity just shrinks and shrinks. And once shrinking and gone, you don't have the capability to function as an innovative person or a creative person because you're so worried about everything that you can't control. So I would tell people, be so kind to yourself. I mean, grace is something that I think all of us need more of and can extend to other people more. Just like your experience at the gym. You changed that woman's life because you spent time with her when everybody else walks by her. And I think that each of us can look inside ourselves and say, hey, it starts with me because I've got to be healthy and I've got to be whole before I can go and help other people do the same.
Right.
But my message would be just give yourself a little bit of grace and realize you are marvelous. Like, you are so great. Now let's go and help you become even more functional, more better. And sometimes that's an entrepreneur path, but even more than just outside of entrepreneurship, it's about knowing who we are and honoring that.
I love that, Scott. That is the perfect last message to leave with my listeners. You know that my hashtag for a long time was badass woman with a purpose, grace, and grit. And the grace piece is what we offer ourselves first. It's okay not to be perfect. In fact, guess what? You're never going to be.
Right. Right.
And that we then can offer it to others. Sometimes that's the greatest moment when people can look at you and receive grace from you. And when I can look at myself in the mirror and say, you know, Mary, this wasn't your best day, but it was the best you had today. And I give myself grace to wake up again in the morning. Scott, thank you so much for being with us here today on Crafting a Meaningful Life. And you have definitely been a huge flashlight, shining them on the path, the way forward. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Mary. I really appreciate that.
Crafting a Meaningful Life.